To all the students, faculty, family, and friends that were affected by this most recent school shooting, I want to extend my deepest condolences. My prayer is that God be glorified in spite of how horrific this event was. School shootings are not inevitable disasters that we have to put up with. There are many reasonable options in which we could end school shootings once and for all. The lie people in power are trying to sell us is that by taking away guns from responsible and mentally well people is the only way to keep mentally disturbed people from harming others through physical violence. The motive behind this lie is that people in power are sinful. Most of these people ruling our country today are not Christians. Because of this, they want more power, and so they will continue to erode our freedoms to arrive at this goal. When we look at the history of our country, we see that it was built by men who were fleeing from tyrannical rule. The King of England was asking too much and giving too little in return. The soon-to-be 13 states couldn't put up with this anymore and had to take action. The Revolutionary War separated the United States from Britain, and the Founding Fathers had tyranny in mind when they drafted the Constitution. They knew that one day evil and sinful men could potentially take over the country, so they put safeguards in place to help stop this. The strongest safeguard that was built into the Constitution is the Second Amendment. Men and women who are able to defend themselves are men and women who will be able to remain free. If the Second Amendment is taken away, then we can have no certainty that we will be able to defend and keep our freedoms. I recently started a new job, and one of my coworkers lived in Cuba for the first 11 years of his life. I asked him, how did Castro maintain power after taking over? And he told me one of the first things this dictator did was take away all of the guns. Dictators and tyrants are afraid of a populace with guns. Why do I say all of this? Because I do not want my son or potential grandchildren to grow up in a country where their freedoms have been taken away. So if taking all the guns away is not a viable solution, what are some other options? And before I get into what I believe are the best options, I'd also like to hear and read what you think. So if you have any ideas, please leave them in the comment section below, or if you feel like it might be a little sensitive, feel free to email me as well. Option number 1, guard our schools. We're willing to guard places like banks and jewelry stores. If we're unwilling to guard our children, then we need to reevaluate our priorities. The downside to this option is the expense. School systems already have budgets that tend to overburden the taxpayer. If we were to increase and add additional people to the payroll, it would exacerbate this even further. Option number 2, homeschool your children. If every child in the United States was pulled from their school, then schools would cease to exist. Parents would have more control over what their children experience and are exposed to, but also having each child in their own home would protect them in a different way. They wouldn't be able to be targeted in such a high impact area as a school. The upside to this option is that it would take children away from a system that does not have their best interests at heart. No Child Left Behind is an awful policy that takes intelligent children and lowers them to the most common denominator. And it also fails to challenge children who need to be pushed past their comfort limits. Most of the pushback of this option is that both parents work. If mom comes home, then the household will earn less money and sacrifices will have to be made. For Christians, these sacrifices should be willing and they should be done eagerly because protecting our children from physical and educational harm comes first. Option number 3 is to improve the overall mental health and well-being of our country. One small step we could do towards this goal is feeding people nutritious foods. Our brains are very complex and they rely on a great deal of nutrients to properly function. If a person is not eating in such a way that their brain is getting fed, then they could easily become mentally ill. This is a controversial topic in the United States because the medical industry does not profit if all you're doing is eating healthy and taking vitamins and minerals. Rather, they would like to see you put on a prescription for the rest of your life. That way, you keep coming back and keep making them money. While I do not think this is an exhaustive list, I do think it provides us both an improvement towards protecting our children and maintaining that protection from the tyranny of the ruling elite. Just to be clear, I don't want any mass shootings to ever happen in this world again. I want people to feel safe as they go about their daily lives, but I also want to be able to uphold our Second Amendment rights and to be able to protect both our property and our loved ones from the harm that others might wish upon us. Thank you for listening, and God bless.